From the ReliefFactor.com studios, here's Mike Gallagher.
Wow, I can't believe the cover of the New York Times and the Washington Post, the front page devoted to a pretty big bombshell survey that was released this week by Rasmussen Reports and the Heartland Institute, how there was widespread election fraud in 2020. I'm stunned. It's all over CNN. You cannot turn on CNN without seeing this coverage wall to wall. I'm just flabbergasted. MSNBC is finally acknowledging that their insistence that there was no widespread election fraud in 2020 was wrong, according to this Heartland Institute Rasmussen report survey. Of course, I'm lying to you because the mainstream media isn't going to touch this story with a 100-foot poll. Headline: 1 in 5 mail-in voters admit to committing voter fraud during the 2020 election. This is pretty astounding. I first heard about this when I saw President Trump yesterday afternoon posted something on Truth Social. He posted the most important poll released in the last 20 years came out this week, stating 20% of the mail-in ballots in the 2020 presidential election were rigged or defective. That means the election was a giant scam. You cannot have a fair and honest election, he said, as long as there are mail-in ballots. Cheating will always be prevalent. France and many other countries have stopped the madness. The Republican Party must do something now. So I saw that post. I thought, what's President Trump talking about? What's he referring to here? Oh, let's see. The Heartland Institute and Rasmussen Reports conducted a survey. They investigated. They're based in Arlington Heights, Illinois. It was a poll of 1,085 likely voters conducted from November 30th to December the 6th. 33% were Republicans, 36% were Democrats, and 31% were other. Now, this is incidentally, the Heartland Institute is a free market think tank. And the result of this survey is nothing short of stunning. I've told you for the last 3 years that over and over again, people who insist that Joe Biden had 81 million votes and he legitimately won and there weren't any election shenanigans, they keep screeching at us how there's no proof of widespread election fraud in the 2020 election. Over and over again, they say that, right? And as I've said to you, you don't need widespread election fraud when you just win by a little bit. If you don't win big, how much election fraud do you need? Well, 20% would do it, don't you think? Listen to this. According to the Heartland Institute Rasmussen Reports survey, 17% of mail-in voters admit that they voted in a state where they are no longer a permanent resident. 21% of mail-in voters admitted they filled out a ballot for a friend or a family member. 17% of mail-in voters said they signed a ballot for a friend or family member with or without his or her permission. 8% of likely voters say they were offered pay or a reward for voting in 2020. Taken together, the results of these survey questions appear to show that voter fraud was widespread in the 2020 election, especially among those who cast mail-in ballots. I think Trump is right. This is the most important poll released in the last 20 years, and the revelation in this poll is profound. Let's say the numbers are a little high. Let's just, for argument's sake, say it's not 20%, but it's 10%. Do you realize what 10% of mail-in ballots represents? And I've got a hunch that the number is actually understated. Election fraud. Isn't this fascinating? 1-800-655-MIKE. This is the biggest story that the media won't touch. This is the story that most people won't even cover. Heck, I'll bet this is a story that won't even get a lot of traction in talk radio. But I've got a pretty good instinct about what's important to the American people. I've got a pretty good working knowledge of the things that matter. I think about the late Charles Krauthammer and the book he wrote called Things That Matter. Election integrity matters. And what worries me tremendously is that we're not going to get this fixed by 2024. 800-655-MIKE. That's our toll-free number. I hope you join us in the Relief Factor studios on a Thursday. It's great to have you here. 11 days till Christmas.